Welcome back, everybody.
Hi! Should I say hi, sisters?
You should say die, sisters. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C.
You have perfect pitch.
I don't.
You just did it.
I just read the notes, Johnny.
Alex, did you see a note?
Yes.
Then how did you know what it sounds like if it's not a real instrument? You didn't play it.
Because it's right there.
Exact. That's what perfect pitch is. Put this in your head. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Put that in your drugs and do them.
What note is that? I'll give you a hint. It's one of the black ones.
Yeah, I know. I don't do the black ones well. Racist though that may sound. Because it's the black notes that spice up a given chord.
Go up a semitone? What's that?
E.
Okay, so go down a half step.
E flat. Is it bad that I could not do that mentally? Even though it was so obvious? Oh, just go up a half step. Well, let's see. What would you like to talk about now, Johnny?
I don't know, Alex. I don't know. Why do we do this?
Why do we do this?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
I think we do this because
Let me go grab my paper.
on the one hand, it's fun, it's engaging, it engages our creativity.
Agreed.
It gives us perspective as to how we can use different tools at our disposal pertaining to music, art, generally speaking. And if you can exercise those mental muscles, for lack of a better term, in any way that's conducive to something good, then you can prepare yourself for something better in the future.
I'm back. Hi, everybody.
Welcome back, Johnny.
Hi, sisters.
Basically, what I said was this is good exercise, at the very least, for us, creatively.
Open the folder.
Apparently, opening the folder means opening it while I'm handling it.
What did you open up to?
Whoa. To stay alive. Shall I read?
I mean, if you want to, yeah. I don't know. I don't remember what that one is. But go for it. If you think, like, that's a poem, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I write in my free time, guys. I suck at it, but it keeps me
If
occupied.
you share poetry, then I'll have to share poetry, and that won't be good because my poetry sucks.
Same.
If all the world would perish and no life would remain, things would sure be different. It would not be the same. Hordes of bodies fill the streets, the stench of death is strong, and those who thought they'd stay alive were sadly proven wrong.
I like how you went from, like, Dr. Seuss to, like, death metal.
The day will come when men will fail and most of them will fall. The only ones left standing are those who heard the call. So it implies that there was a warning given. Interesting.
This one I kind of had to rush because I was forced to leave work because of bad weather.
Yeah. Prepare for what is coming, the bad weather. Your time is running out. Beware of those who linger to sow the seeds of doubt. For soon they too will see the truth, and it shall come to pass. Right now they cloud your judgment like toxic, wasteful gas. And finally, remember your goal is to survive, and in this you will conquer the fight to stay alive. Staying alive, staying alive. That's interesting. That's very interesting.
What else is even in there? Like, I don't even know.
Let's see, you got...
Like, if there's, like, a story or something. Like, I don't want to go through it because then it just looks like I'm picking something.
If anybody should pick, it should be the person who wrote it.
You
Because
think
I don't
so?
even know what's in here. Like, it's like a miniature book of...
They're all different things, though.
Yeah. Have a look.
Oh, crap. Is it okay if I read one?
Yeah, sure. And I'll flip through my various sundry notes on my phone and see if there's anything acceptable remotely.
Everything is accepted. It's our podcast. I'm not doing that one. What's this? I ain't doing that one. That's stupid.
You mind if I give something a read just to
Go
see
for it.
how it sticks? Go for it. Worst comes to worst, we can just edit it out.
Is it a poem?
No, it's more like just a page of dialogue about a given thought, like something like a commentary of an idea, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's about, like, I suppose the idea of sin or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And this was just like me typing down thoughts. It was on April 27th.
Ooh, you date your crap too, huh?
Well, it does it automatically
Man
on my
of
phone.
culture. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's less culture, more convenience. Anyways, sin seems to be an inevitability to me. It should be resisted, combated, and tactically evaded, yet it always seems to sneak in those major and minor victories that shatter faith. What then is the answer to the question posed by human righteousness' seemingly futile resistance to evil? The question is flawed by nature. Just as it isn't wrong for a weak person to exercise and condition their body to perform feats of strength previously unperformable, so too is the exercising of the spirit against the flesh a worthwhile pursuit. Paul would not have said to run with patience if the running didn't exert oneself. True belief in God is a battle, a war that is waged every moment of every day, with the victory being the promise of eternity in heaven with God, who is true and good. Defeat is separation from God with no chance of redemption. So fight, believe in goodness, reject your ego and pride in favor of humility toward God and your fellow man, and be willing to fall on the rock lest the rock fall on you.
Ooh. Ooh. Man, out
Was
here
that
in the
somewhat
deep.
okay?
Out here in the deep. All right. I've got these. And you pick something out of these.
You gotta, if I pick, then you gotta read them.
Yeah, yeah.
Boy in the Well, I remember Boy in the Well. Ooh, if I were to pick two, I would have to say War and Mr. Nothing, but let me give Death Silence a quick look.
For me, it would be a toss-up between Death Silence and The Boy in the Well.
In that case, go with Death Silence.
Alright.
Yeah.
And now... and now, for a dramatic reading. Death Silence.
We can do sound effects later.
Okay, no, Death Silence. Man, it's so weird reading my crap out loud that I wrote. I've never done it before. I always let other people read it. Okay. The calmness that lurks in the darkness is death. Its peaceful, somber embrace is almost too tempting to resist. It cannot be seen, but it can be felt. Its shadow engulfs everything in its path. For something so cold, its warmth provides comfort. As a lost soul wanders throughout the galaxy, so does death wander in search of those whose time on earth is over. Death comes for us all, and sooner or later our meeting with death will be unavoidable. Death is quiet, but its silence is deafening. By the time you hear it coming, it's already too late. Death does not take joy or pride in his duty. It simply carries out its job without hesitation. Death does not have favorites, nor does it despise a single being. It does not descend from the heavens, nor does it ascend from the darkness below. It simply traverses the universe, waiting for the call. Death knows no rest. It does not eat, and it does not sleep. It does not grow tired or weary in its task. There are those who have almost been carried away on death's wings, yet still remain on earth for now. To try and explain why is almost impossible, for who can truly know death's desires or motives? Death will forever remain infinite in mystery, clouded with speculation and questions. Some worship death, others try to avoid it at any cost. Either way, death will not discriminate. Death is neither evil or good. It simply is. Its angelic yet terrifying presence can be felt by those who are about to die. The cold warmth that death radiates surrounds the soul who has been chosen. As sure as the sun rises and sets, death exists, an ever-present force roaming from person to person. So live your life to the fullest and enjoy every moment. Do not live your life in fear of something you cannot control, for no one can stop death. Because death is not something to be stopped. Death is another part of life. The journey of life does not end with death. It is just another path we all must take. The gray curtain of life slowly rolls away, and all turns into silver glass. And all we have to do is decide what to do with the time that remains.
Big gray beard, pointy hat.
Shut up, I stole it from... Okay, I stole at the very end.
Yeah.
I stole from Gandalf, but everything else was all me.
I think, like, from a humanistic sort of philosophical point of view, that's really interesting.
That's where I was coming from.
But, like, spiritually speaking, I think death is our compass as to what good and evil, like how we quantify good and evil. If it's good, it produces life, and if it's evil, it leads to death, because sin leads to death, and sin is antithetical to God.
You want me to try and do a tricky one?
Yeah.
Mr. Nothing?
Mr. Nothing.
Boom, boom, boom.
Why is there nothing in your head? You know what I like about the condenser microphone?
What do you like?
It picks up audio both from what I'm saying and what you're saying, and my microphone just picks up what I'm saying.
Alright, here we go.
Okay.
Mr. Nothing. The moment you try and define what nothing is, you've already made it something.
Sounds like something from JoJo's.
To discuss the very nature of nothing and to attempt to imply any definition of it defeats the purpose of the word. It's almost like the riddle that goes, what is something so fragile you can break it just by saying its name? The answer, of course, is silence. So, how do you define nothing? The best way I've found to do so is this. Nothing is the absence of anything. So if the absence of anything is the definition of nothing, how can one measure nothing? How much of nothing can one space contain? But if there is in fact a way to measure nothing, wouldn't that make nothing something?
Yeah.
I may have created a revolving paradox, an endless cycle doomed to repeat itself. So then the question still remains, what is nothing? Perhaps it is that paradox of nothing and something almost being the same thing that would lead one to believe that anything can in fact be nothing. The average mind wouldn't be able to comprehend the concept of someone or something being defined as nothing, therefore a name, such as Mr. Nothing, would also be a paradox as well, for almost the exact same reasons. I don't literally mean nothing, rather a man who leaves no trace, evidence, or clues to who he is or his whereabouts. For all intents and purposes, he is nothing. The idea of something coming from nothing is almost terrifying depending on the circumstance. For instance, you're all alone in your house, and you're sure no one else is there. There is nothing besides you, when all of a sudden you hear a strange thud in the other room. That doesn't make sense, you think to yourself. How can something make a sound if no one is in there to move or push whatever it was that fell? Slowly you make your way to the room and gently open the door. The floor beneath your feet creaks and your palms begin to sweat as you grab the door. There's nothing here, you tell yourself over and over. Nothing is going to happen. I'm here by myself. It's ideas like those where true horror and suspense originate from. The fear of the unknown that drives the mind to dark, mysterious places. It's truly a fascinating concept. So I will leave you with the same question I started with. What is nothing? And if nothing is something, what is that thing that nothing is?
That is interesting. Again, from like a sort of like humanistic, philosophic point of view.
Yeah.
I
had a lot of free time,
I
and
kind of think that like nothing is subjective to expectation, because if you have,
oh yeah,
because like let's say
you want a hit of this, man? No.
Like let's say let's say I go on Amazon.
It's like we're talking like we're high with this weird crap that we write, but we're not.
It comes from those very deep places in the mind from which ideas originate. So. And those areas of the mind which are very deep, drugs kind of stimulate, but
yeah, they really do.
With practice, you can exercise them of your own volition.
Mm-hmm.
But in the case of something like nothing, there usually has to be some sort of expectation or an anticipation to something with a function.
Yeah.
You know, because like if I
what a rich man.
like if I were to view an empty room and I were to say there's nothing in here, I'd
Mm-hmm.
clearly be wrong because there are 4 walls, there's a ceiling, there's carpet, but there wouldn't be a TV, there wouldn't be any video games, there wouldn't
Furniture.
be any guitars, there wouldn't be things that I personally like.
Mm-hmm.
So for all I care, the room is
Empty.
It's empty. There's nothing in it. So it depends.
But there's
on the
nothing in the
functionality.
room. But that doesn't. The components you named off, the 4 walls, the floor, the ceiling, the windows. That's what makes up the room.
Mm-hmm.
So the room is empty, and there's nothing in the room.
But that's dependent. Actually, maybe potential has another element in there because you're viewing the room as to what it should be. You're viewing it in terms of its potential, as opposed to the way it is now. So there's almost a faith element there.
How do you figure?
In a weird way, because potential and faith feed off of each other, because faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, and potential is the acknowledgement of something like a hope or an aspiration or an idea of something being more than what it could be. So, and of course that's more rooted in pragmatism as opposed to blind optimism.
I got something else I want. This is the last thing. I don't just want to this whole podcast to be. Oh, look at what I write! Look at what I write! Look at it! It's so cool. It's another poem, man. I didn't think I wrote so many poems, but I did.
Hey, buddy, anything is good.
This one is called "The Boy in the Well."
Mm.
I wrote this originally when I was like 14 or 15, 16 years old, but I didn't like it, and my skills. I mean, I still don't think my skills are good, but I know my skills are better than what they were when I was 14 to 16 years old. So I revisited the story and kind of like redid it. And it goes like something like this. The story tells the tragic tale of one unlucky soul. A boy who went outside to play. It was his only goal. He climbed a tree, played in the leaves, the time was passing fast. But soon he would make one mistake, and that would be his last. For in the woods there was a well, and little did he know that there was something in it, a creature down below. The hours passed so quickly, the day was growing late, but when the day was over, the boy would meet his fate. He made his way across the field, he even climbed the hill, and rolling down onto the ground, it gave him such a thrill. He made it to the bottom, and now he had a choice, and just before he made it, he heard a child's voice. It sounded like another boy he couldn't seem to find. He knew the boy was in distress, so he made up his mind. The voice grew even louder, the closer that he got. He didn't even realize that he was getting lost. And finally he found it, surrounded by tall trees. No animals went by there, the sun you could not see. I'm here, the boy said loud. Now tell me, where are you? The voice said, down here in this rotten well. Now here's what you can do. Grab the rope and toss it down and make sure it's tied tight. And when I make it to the top, things will be all right. But when the boy had reached the top, he gave an evil grin. He grabbed the boy who saved him, and then he threw him in. He laughed and said, I'm free at last, it's time to have some fun. My life is just beginning, while yours is almost done. So now you know the story, a tale so sad to tell, a boy who's trapped forever and stuck inside the well.
Creepy.
Yeah.
But concise and solid. Well written.
I mean, for the most part. There was one hiccup. I think I tried drawing got and lost, and I don't really know how that worked. But for the most part, I like to think it was a little bit better than...
I can see that animated. Like, damn. That's good. In that case, I'll, like, read my stupid thing, which is another one of those sort of, like, Christianese...
What were your, if any, criticisms or, like, general consensus?
Other than that missed rhyme...
Which part? The got and lost?
Yeah, like, that seemed a little bit...
forced.
Yeah. Other than that, the pacing was good. The metaphors were good.
You said you could see it in your head, like watching it unfold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a sign of a well-written story when it can translate to the visually sort of.
Because I'll tell you, my main thought process when I'm writing is, okay, the thing, I have a deep, dark secret, which is I would love to draw. I can't draw. Like, my stick figures look bad. And so since I can't draw, I try to paint a picture with words. And like using different language and dialogue and settings and the way you phrase things, you can paint a picture in someone's head. Like you can just say like the boy ran through the grass, or like you can talk about how green the grass was and what it felt like on his hands, and
Verdant the grass.
how hot the sun was, and you could feel the wind running on his face, and like just like you phrase things, almost give things that aren't alive living attributes. You make them come alive more, add color in it and things like that, and you can create a whole. Ow, my shoulders. You can create a whole
sunburn.
Yeah, but I want to hear what you wrote. I want to hear what you wrote.
It's another one of those dumb sermonette things. Like that's what I'm convinced these are more like, as opposed to just my own thoughts. Like they seem more like sermonettes when I read them.
Like, am I gonna need an organ here in a little bit to like back you up?
No, this is like one of those boring white people sermons. Alright, so this is how it begins. It plays on the theme of courage. Courage in times of fear and doubt for a Christian is difficult to muster. Your enemy is hidden, yet always on the offense. He sabotages and corrupts your way, leading you down the path of ruin. How can you fight this enemy when the enemy is you?
Ooh.
The answer is simple. Deprive him of his resources. That which the evil within you feeds on, that you must deprive. Assess yourself with intensity, accepting those things which are true, and prioritize eliminating behavior patterns which are unhealthy and wrong.
Ooh.
So it's pretty simple, pretty short.
That's like some life advice right there, my guy.
Well,
how can you fight the enemy when the enemy is you?
Right, because if you try to fight yourself directly, then you end up doing harm to yourself. And Jesus said something interesting about that, which was, if your eye offends thee, pluck it out. If your hand offends thee, cut it off. And the message behind that is something along the lines of, it's worth harming yourself in the immediate to spare yourself hell in the long run. So, that I think is something that, our Western minds aren't really accommodated to because, of how important our individual liberty is,
Yeah, and it's easy when you see someone else going through something and you see the internal struggle that they're having to just be like, oh, all you need to do is blah, 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 blah. And you may be 100% right.
But they can't accept it.
And not only can they not accept it, when it comes to you, are you willing to take the same advice that you're giving other people if it applies?
And this also, that reminds me of another sort of like biblical motif, which is about like almost all
a biblical motif.
Well, it's like all these Old Testament prophets, they're told by God, you're right, you're going to go to these people, you're going to talk to them, they're not going to listen to you, but you're going to do it anyway. So, what's interesting is that it's almost as though, viewing this from almost like a psychological perspective, it's better to tell people the right thing even if you know they're not going to accept it in the immediate moment, because they will remember you saying it, and then possibly sometime later on down the road, in their remembrance, there's a better chance that they'll improve their behavior because of that, as opposed to you not saying anything knowing that they won't do anything in the immediate moment.
Well, see, I thought you were just going to say so you can look back on them and tell them, I told you so, you motherfungus.
No, I told you so. That just gratifies the ego.
Yeah, that's
as well as not saying anything, that also gratifies the ego because you want to assist the person in that moment.
See, and
as opposed to actually helping them in the long run.
And we're of the same mindset in the sense that like we don't like to waste our time.
Mm-hmm.
So that for if God looked at me or if he told me, hey, I need you to go talk to these people and tell them A, B, and C, they're not gonna do or listen to anything you have to say, but I want you to tell them anyway. I know we're not supposed to question God, but the first thing I'll be like, why?
Oh, I probably wouldn't do it. Like, if I'm just being completely honest, like, especially if I was unsure if I was hearing from God, I'd be like, no, I'm not doing this.
No.
But the fact that there's even a chance that he would, and it would be the right thing to do, by definition, and the fact that I would say no to it, it's, It's an interesting sort of.
I'd have to pull a Gideon at that moment and like, God, show me a sign, because
Yeah.
like I always go back to that in my mind, because like at first he said, make the fleece wet and the grass around it dry, and then it was make the grass wet and make the fleece dry, and God did both of those things. Like I would need, just because I know my faith is not strong enough yet. Like I don't have Abraham faith, but I have like Gideon faith. Like that's where I'm at. I think that's the level that best describes where I'm at, because I mean think about it. Gideon had what, 10,000 guys, or how many men did he have?
300.
No, not at the very end. I mean at the beginning.
Oh, he had some. I believe he had. I forget the exact number. It might have been 10,000. Although I remember the second number being 10,000.
Yeah, he had a lot of guys, and God whittled him down to 300. And then after that, he says, I want you to sneak into the camp. Don't use any weapons. So he strips him of over half his army.
Oh, way more than.
Yeah, like, no, I'm just being nice.
Yeah.
Like, basically down to nothing.
Yeah.
Sneak into a camp
More like 90%.
and clash around a bunch of pots and pans. And through that one miracle alone, these guys kill each other. That's pretty amazing to me, my guy.
Oh, absolutely. And it's strange how that's also a reoccurring thing in Scripture. How the enemy, if you're aligned with God, will eliminate themselves as opposed to you doing anything.
Well, look at David and Goliath. You know, the best warrior, like Saul said, here, take my armor. He looked at David and he said, take this, blah, 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 blah. He says, too heavy, I can't use it. The baddest man in the planet. He's got 6 fingers, stands, what, like 12 feet tall?
Yeah.
He's got a spear, he's got a sword, he's got a shield, full suit of armor, and 5 other brothers that are like ready to avenge him when he dies. David's got a slingshot and no armor. And he takes that sling and he spins it around.
He was playing life on like the hardest
Dude,
difficulty at that
he
point.
was playing on like if you die, you have to restart from the very beginning level. Like
Ultra Nightmare.
yeah, Ultra Nightmare, the hardest difficulty, super survivalist, whatever you want to call it, the extreme. And one stone topples a giant. I mean, he walks over to the dead body and he decapitates him just to be sure.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But scientists have done research on this story, and they said in order for the stone to actually have killed him, it would have been traveling as fast as a 45 caliber bullet, or with the same weight as a 45 caliber bullet. So like the impact of a 45 hitting you was the equivalent of what David's stone hit Goliath in the head with. And like you know you see like the movies and the cartoons and crap, but like can you imagine actually being there? Like, can you imagine Saul sweating like all his armor off, thinking, "Oh no, David's gonna die."
Oh, a part of me doubts that he was sweating. He probably just viewed it as either a child, just another Israelite, you know, trying to fight.
Because at this point, he was already anointed king. He wasn't king.
Oh yeah.
But you know, Samuel came, and I always liked the fact that Samuel has to ask was it Jethro or Jesse was the father?
Yeah, Jesse.
He's like, "Do you have any other sons?"
He's like, "Oh,
he's like, "Yeah, we got one more." And he's like, "Oh, you mean the sheep boy?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "That one."
Boy.
He says that one. The guy, and David killed what? He killed a lion and a bear with the same sling.
He killed a lion and a bear with his staff, I think.
This guy killed a lion and a bear. This is his only recorded kill count. Are 2 animals. I mean, granted, can you imagine how big the animals must have been back in the day?
Yeah.
Like to kill a bear and a lion, obviously not at the same time, but to kill each animal with a staff. He doesn't even use the staff on a giant.
And what's interesting is that he had, like, the consistency wasn't in terms of the opponent. You know, the opponent gradually went up to like 100 after like bear, you know, really bad, lion, okay, really bad, intelligent, super tall, super intelligent human being,
Hybrid.
yeah, who could, you know, easily take out like
Hordes of people.
yeah, I suppose hordes of people. And David, like the constant in that sort of equation was David's faith.
Yep.
Like David had faith in God, and he believed that because he could take down the bear and the lion, that he could take down the giant. So, speaking...
I don't know if I have that kind of faith right now, my guy.
I mean, there have been plenty of times in my life where I've had faith for a given thing, and I thought, okay, great, worked out well. And then for another thing that seemed even a percentage greater than the former, it's like, oh no, this is impossible.
Yeah.
And it's like, why?
But see, here's what blows my mind. Okay, Jesus said, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can be able to look at a mountain and say, be thou removed, and it will be cast into the sea. If I have faith that God's going to move something, and I tell that thing to move, and it doesn't, does that mean my faith is not strong enough, or am I just asking God to do parlor tricks at that point?
It depends on where you're coming from when you ask for something like that. As Christians, we should be acting almost as the... I'm not sure if you've read it. In Ezekiel, there are these beings, these spiritual beings, which basically, to put the weird long story short, they only move as the Spirit inspires them to move. And that's how I believe Christians should act. So if we feel compelled by the Spirit of God to pray for a certain person, or pray that a certain thing change in the life of a given person, that we should do it, and we should do it consistently. And upon doing it consistently, we will see that change. I know I've had that happen to me with certain people.
Same.
And it's worked out.
Same. I remember I prayed for somebody for a long time. Like it was like months and months and months. And I just kept having faith that one day I was going to see this person again. And I did. They showed up. They came around. We hung out. It was fun. Yada, 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 yada. It took a long time and I didn't know if it was ever going to happen. But it did.
Because there is an undeniably supernatural aspect of God that manifests itself in reality. It's not just advice. You know, we're not just giving advice here. Like, there is a truth to God that is more than just the mundane.
Yeah.
And I personally think...
if you're praying for the right thing... See, this is the way I always heard it put. And there's a pastor. Shout out. He's probably not even going to listen to this.
We know he is.
Know. Shout out to Pastor Jeremy Foster. He's got Hope City down in Texas, and he explained it in a way that was like so mind-blowing but so simple to understand at the same time. I'm not calling him dumb because it was really, really smart what he said, but like the way he broke it down, like it was with the use of an object lesson. And he said God lives outside of time. He doesn't see time the same way we do. He can move forward, he can move backward, he can go around it, up, down, all around time. So, and then he drew a line. And he said, if you're right here, and he pointed somewhere more towards the beginning, on your timeline, and you're praying for God, you know, you're asking God for this, and you're asking God for, you know, you're asking for the right things, not like, oh, give me a Ferrari, give me a smoking hot wife, I want a mansion, you know, like, you know, things according to the, you know, his will. And you're asking for it. He might say, okay, Alex, you know, you found favor in my eyes. I put my blessing on you, yada, yada, yada. And he drops the answer to your prayer on your timeline, but not like directly in front of you, but like further on in front of you. He already answered it, and you just got to walk into it. And that blew my mind. Like, you know, because sometimes you see people, and they're like, oh, you know, the chance of one of your prayers being answered are 50-50. And if your prayer isn't answered, then it's, oh, I guess it just wasn't in God's will. Well, if it wasn't in God's will, then why the heck are you praying in the first place? And that's the argument people make. And it's a good argument. Like, it makes sense. It's like, what's the point of praying if God's not going to answer your prayer half the time?
Because it's a process, and we're imperfect.
Ooh.
And prayer is a part of the process.
Imperfect prayer process. And at the end of the process, there's a promise. Thank you, Jesus. I
mean, you're not wrong. You're putting it in bullshit jargon.
No, it's not bullshit jargon. It's black preaching.
You're just trying to come up with something with a B. 'Cause you like alliteration.
No, we were just saying P, imperfect process, and through the process there's gonna be some pain, and on the other side of the process, you go through the pain, you get the promise. Thank you. Alright, I'm out.
Well, we are
Mic drop.
We're almost at an hour. So.
Man, I wish we had like a shout track or something. It's just I know you boom boom.
Probably edit one in.
And like you get
another one of our music projects. Is you can give me a bass and I'll.
Wow. You got to do that walk up that they do in church. Yeah. Yeah. Every time I feel the spirit. Right. You know, from the Blues Brothers. From the Blues Brothers.
Yeah, it's my favorite anime. With Jiku.
And hello, Arrowwood. Yeah, you can't say L. Oh no, are we appropriating Japanese culture? Nani? はばかよとするよ。このディオだ。トリカモコトポチキンストームトルーパー。How would you say lightsaber if you were speaking with a Japanese accent?
Right to Seburu.
No, Sibureture.
Siburetu.
They revert
That
everything.
sounds like civil rights. Siburetu.
Sibureture. Malcolm X. Black Power. Black Lives Matter.
Okay, yeah, this is going downhill.
No, we're fine.
Do you have anything you want to say?
Here's something
before
about
we
the
end
Jews.
The podcast? You have anything you want to say before we end the podcast? Do you have anything you want to say?
Wait,
before
no.
we end the
I did.
podcast?
I had a joke. I don't remember what it was. Crap.
But before we were talking about that, we were talking about something pertaining to the faith. I don't know.
I don't remember what it was. Can I say that racist
No!
German Jewish joke
No!
that I made? There's no bad language in it.
fine.
Yeah, there's no bad language in it, but I have to put on the voice.
I'm sorry, everybody.
And I've got just enough Jewish in me. I can get away with this.
He's actually right. We're kind of Jewish.
Yeah, there's that too. So, what did Hitler say when he was working on uns gas chamber?
What did he say?
Out with the old and in with the Jew.
Anything you want to say before we end?
On a serious note?
Yeah, sure.
On a serious note, keep the faith.
Mm.
And don't let life put you down to the point where you lose sight of your faith. And don't let fear take over your faith. Oh, I did it again. I did it again.
Yeah. And the only thing I could add to that is make sure your faith is based on the truth. Don't just put your faith into anything.
Put your faith in the Father. Oh, snap. 2 for 2.
Okay, 2 for 2.
Oh.
Alrighty, well.
Oh.
Ladies and gents, thank you for listening.
Ladies and gents. What
Yeah.
about all the other transgender? I remember the joke. It was this kid. He said, I don't understand what LGBTQ plus is. Is it like a premium subscription to gay? He's like, what does the plus stand for? Because you said ladies and gents, you left out all the other genders. Culturally appropriating you. For not being woke.
Good night, everyone.
God bless.
Bye-bye.